Smart takes the show. Quick burn. Arching the Akino. Gives it to Jenkins. Tap. And the other moves the champions. That's the champion. Oh, no. Come to me. No. For sure. Let's. On that. See that. What a champion. Pretty much. I want that champion. I will be fast. Swap canvas. For 30. Then they pull it off. The train continues. Ramel looking for the lead. The floater. Hashtag madness. A lead on a run out. The first down. It's lead. Jackson. Oh, Houston and Manfred Hadley taking over. Caravan. We got another one at the buzzer. 2 seconds. He's got to put it up.
It's March Madness time, people. We are live. We are back. It's a special night for Kenny Cotterill. It's a bit late. 9:15 Central Time. Kenny said, don't worry, I'm staying up. We're going to do this. I'm all about it. I'm your host, Ernest Docky Silva at Into Lab Pod. You're watching on Into Lab Pod or on the Sport Gene. We appreciate you tuning in late. Of course, this is brought to you by the Sport Gene Network. What's in your DNA? Join the Sport Gene today. We appreciate all y'all watching today. It is all about bracketology. If you are not living under a rock, you know that the brackets are out, and you know that we are going to be dissecting quite a bit here on Into the Lab. But first off and foremost, he's my co-host for Season 5, Kenny Cotterill. You can catch him at the Hedge Pod. What's up, man?
It's March. I mean, you can sleep when it's April. That's the way that I view it. So we gotta go late, but I'm excited. The bracket's out. We're ready to go. 68 teams. Some snubs, some teams that quite frankly should have won a couple more games and they'd be in. And I'm super excited.
Yeah, I'm very hyped. I've done my analysis. I've done my work. You and I are talking today, so I had to. I said we're gonna get it right today. I'm sure nobody wants to just sit around and just wait for us to get into it, right? We have 32 different matchups. We'll talk a little bit about those planes as well. But I think we're just going to get started and jump right into round number 1, and that's the Beast of the East, which I'm deeming one of the toughest regions we've had in a while. I think UConn got the short end of the draw personally, and we'll talk a little bit more about why. But let's start off, and I'll let you start off with the first analysis. The number 1 overall seed, UConn, gets Stetson first round, 116 matchup. Take it away, Kenny.
Yeah, I mean, UConn, this was very easy. Number 1 team. You've got the defending champs. You've got Hurley, one of the best coaches in the country. They just won the Big East. They handled Marquette in the final there. So this is pretty easy for UConn to be the 1 seed. I do feel bad for a team like Stetson. It's a team that, isn't familiar with the NCAA tournament. And then you're hoping that if you're going to get a 1 seed, it's literally any of the other 3. And instead you get a juggernaut in UConn. So UConn's one of the best 2A teams in the country. They average over 80 points per game. They only give up 64. So when they win big. And this just feels like a tough matchup for them. Like Jalen Blackman, he's going to have probably 30 plus for them to even cover this game. So I think it's a pretty easy when you're looking at a minus 26.5 for UConn here in the opener. Only lost 3 games all year.
Yeah, from an ITL ranking perspective, UConn number 1 overall, Stetson number 64 overall for us. I love that UConn got the number 1 overall seed, gives Houston a bit of a chip on their shoulder to chase that. They did play like the best team in basketball all year, so very deservedly so. Sorry to hear about Stetson. Jalen Blackman's a beast, though. Everybody will get to see him showcase because he gets to play the number 1 overall. but I think UConn runs away with this. This is not one of those close games that I'm worried about whatsoever. So UConn will be our first choice. And if you're not familiar with the ITL Bracketology or the ITL Challenge, it's a $100 challenge. You get a polo, you get a chance to be on the show, come do some analysis with us through the NBA playoffs. Go check it out today. The link is in the description if you're watching on Facebook or any of the other platforms and Twitter. You'll probably find that on one of our pin posts. So go check out one of our pin tweets and join that ITL challenge. But UConn with the first bid and the first draw. And we move on to the next 8-9 matchup, which is going to be Florida Atlantic against Northwestern, which is I think is going to be a doozy of a game. Kenny, take it away on this early matchup here in this 8-9, which I thought was a terrific matchup to start things off to face UConn second round.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. You've got FAU, a team that went to the Final Four last year. Obviously losing to San Diego State there, which funny enough, San Diego State's the next matchup after this. But
right.
FAU is a tough one because, yeah, they can play really well. They also just lost to Temple as they were minus 1,200 favorites. So when you drop a game like that, they lost to Florida Gulf Coast. So there's some losses in there that are really puzzling. And then you take on a team like Northwestern. Yeah, it's a Big Ten team, but it's not one that you think of as being a perennial powerhouse in college basketball. And then when you've got Boo Buie, a guy that can average 19 a game, I mean, he's the guy that could take over in a game like this. And I think that you're going to see a lot of people take FAU because they were the team there last year. But I wouldn't rule this out. I mean, Florida Atlantic's only minus 2.5 here. It's a pretty close spread. I do think that Boo Buie has the potential to win this game on his own. And when we're talking about guard play in March, I think that's of the utmost importance. So I would take Northwestern in a spot like this.
So far, you and I are 2 for 2. I like Northwestern a lot. In our ITL Power Rankings, I have Northwestern at 32 in this pool of teams, and I have Florida Atlantic at 42. So a bit of a drop. The thing that really kind of kicks Northwestern up for me was their strength of schedule. They had the 36th hardest strength of schedule this year. And that speaks wonders. Northwestern finally coming back into the tournament. And if you've watched Boo Buie play, you'll notice it's just all-around talent. I actually did my homework this year, was actually looking at some of these rosters. Northwestern has some of those upperclassmen in there, and I love picking those upperclassmen team, especially for first rounds. I'm going to take Northwestern to win this one as well. And that puts us 2 for 2 going forward, which I don't expect us to stay, on par the whole way. But I am shocked we're not already differing. We move on to our next one. San Diego State and UAB is our next matchup. The San Diego State Final Four participants. We've seen them in recent years have a ton of talent. They come in as the 5 seed, UAB the 12 seed. This is going to be a very interesting draw, especially when you look at the stars of SDSU. They're very much star heavy with their starting lineup. They aren't a very deep bench. I've crunched the numbers for these as well, and so I'm going to my trusty sheet here. San Diego State in our rankings comes in as the 23rd best team in this pool of college basketball teams so far. And for UAB, they drop really heavy for me. And I think what really kills them is not only their strength of schedule, but their offensive lack of production. I think that hurts them in ways, especially with their strength of schedule being so low. So they're actually 98th in the country. And their offensive production was not in the top 50, not close. So they're going to have to play stout defense and be able to keep San Diego State from running in transition. If you've seen San Diego State play throughout the years, you've seen that they not only have one of the top coaches in the country, but they also have the ability to switch your dynamic and switch between their defenses as well to create turnovers and create havoc, which they're a top 10 turnover team. I like San Diego State in this matchup. I think it's going to be a really good game. It's going to be a close game to start at least for the first half. And I like San Diego State to run away with it. So San Diego State is my pick, Kenny.
Yeah, this is a tough one because I think UAB's might be a bit of a trendy pick. They did obviously just win the AAC. The thing that's concerning for me is that San Diego State all year, I mean, non-conference, they beat St. Mary's, they beat Gonzaga. Only one of their losses is outside of the quad one this year. So really, when they are losing, it's to quality teams. But what hurts UAB is they had 4 quad 1 opportunities and they went 0 for 4. So when they've had the chance to take on tougher opponents and have a real shot, they haven't done that. So for me, it's San Diego State. They have the experience. Jaden Ledee, he came off the bench last year, then he steps up and he has a massive year in a starting role. And I just think that UAB is going to be overmatched. UAB, their strength is when you can get into a track meet with them. That's how they want to play. San Diego State's probably going to slow it down and control the tempo. And they're -6.5 right now. I'd take them to win, potentially cover as well.
Yep, I do like San Diego State, and I do like that line. So we're going San Diego State here. So far, Kenny and I are par for the course. San Diego State, the 5 seed, gets the bid, and we're going to move on to our next matchup. We're going Auburn, Yale next. Auburn, the 4 seed overall. Yale, the 13 seed overall in the East. If you guys didn't watch the Yale Brown game, I would go back and watch it. It was a phenomenal game. I was messaging over to Frank Labuto, our resident Vegas analyst, and I was just going back and forth as the game was going down the stretch, and just to watch Brown fans actually really excited for this game to be done, and then them lose with a comeback from Yale. The game winner was phenomenal. A putback, that was an easy drop. Huge shout out to Yale for that win. Auburn, though, is a beast, and Auburn does rank in our top 15. They're number 11 in our power rankings. Yale down around 48, but it's hard to match up with these two programs. Yale coming out of the Ivy League, coming out as Ivy League champions, obviously grinding out that win. Auburn is just very stout all the way around. If you take a look at what they bring to the table, Auburn has, I mean, they're a top 15 team overall. They have a phenomenal coach, probably one of the best coaches in basketball. And their strength of schedule was top 20. They play in a conference that's obviously tough to win in. And if you look at some of their key wins for the year, right, just looking at who they play against, they have the win against A&M, they have the win against Alabama. They play in the SEC, and they play against teams that are obviously dancing in this tournament. Other than the Big 12, I think the SEC is probably the next toughest conference, and Kenny could probably argue you can interchange them, but Big 12 I think is the conference to beat. I am a bit biased. I don't know how I will vote against Auburn in this matchup. I like Auburn's matchup. Yale's a little bit bigger, but Auburn is the team for me in this 4-13 matchup. I'm not going to go with upset alert yet. Kenny.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go 4 for 4 with you here. I really wish that this wasn't Yale that was the Ivy League champ. I thought that Princeton could have been a sneaky 13 if they didn't get what I would call as the best 4 seed in the tournament right now. The issue that I have is that Yale, anytime they've tried to play up to some tougher competition, like you lose to Gonzaga by 15, you lose to Kansas by 15, and to me, Auburn's better than both of those teams. And so to see them now, they're like 12-point favorites. Auburn coming off winning the SEC championship. I really wish that, honestly, if Yale matched up with Duke, I would really think about it. It's just Auburn to me is a different animal. And so when you've got a team that's top 30 in offense and defense, I think they're going to win this game, and probably handily, because they win games by double digits when they do.
And the thing is when Yale has the bigger roster, the bigger starting rotation, they're undefeated, right? But that won't be the case against Auburn. And so they're not very good when they're not bigger. And that's going to work against them probably in these bigger games going forward. And those are some of the little stats I like to look at. But I completely agree. We are 4 for 4. So Auburn takes the pick here on ITL, and Kenny and I are betting 1,000. We think that's going to change. But we'll see. Maybe we have the perfect bracket, and we're just going to be perfect the whole way through. Let's go. BYU is the 6th seed in the East. I always mess up this name. I'm gonna mess it up. Kenny, correct me on this. How do you pronounce this 11 seed?
Duquesne.
Duquesne. That's right. I always want to put the SNE in there.
Yeah, I know, right?
BYU. I do. It throws. I watched their entire game too, and I was like, "Don't mess this up live. Don't mess this up live." And I did it anyways. Okay, so Duquesne and BYU. BYU is a 6 seed. Kenny, why don't you start us off with this analysis?
Boy, this is a tough one. I mean, BYU, when you play in the Big 12, It feels like every game is a battle, and that's how it was all year for them. When you're on the Duquesne side of things, they weren't amazing in A10 play. They were 6th as A10 champs. So this is a concerning one for me. I'm going to actually take Duquesne for the upset. I like how they beat some quality teams in non-conference. Even when they played a tough team like Nebraska, it was still within 10 points. So they've at least played that one close. They beat teams like Dayton along the way, who's a tournament team, which is a big win for them as well. So I'm going to roll with Duquesne here. Not even that I dislike BYU, but I just think that maybe they got a little bit overvalued here. For me, BYU should have been closer to a 7 seed.
Yep. So still batting 1,000, and I promise you I'm not copying his picks. I got my own points. But Duquesne, if you watch the tournament play, mimicking a bit about what Kenny said, right? Through conference play, they were not phenomenal, but you like to ride the hot hand and the hot streak. It's the same analysis I have with Texas A&M. But Duquesne absolutely has momentum right now. The players are confident. The coaching staff is confident. They also have the 33rd best defense in the nation, which we know defense wins in these early rounds and tends to be who has higher offensive output towards the latter rounds. But defense wins championships, as they say. And so you're going to need to be stout and you're going to need to be tenacious. And I like what Duquesne brings to the table. I watched BYU very closely. The Big 12 play is kind of my forte. I watch, as all y'all know, I follow Texas teams. So I watch BYU quite closely. And I do think BYU is a little overrated from a voting standpoint. Strength of schedule for the Big 12 teams is going to be way up there. The play for Big 12 was just phenomenal this year. Shout out Sooners. Sorry to hear about y'all not making the tournament. But I'm going to take Duquesne also. I like their tenacity. I like what the team is doing. When you have a defense that's top 50 or better, I point it out every single time. You'll hear it a lot tonight. I like the 11 upset here for this pick, as well as Kenny. So we're still batting 1,000 here as we go to the 3-14 matchup. But shout out Duquesne. I hope you guys get that win. And that's our early upset pick, aside from Northwestern. Let's roll. All right, number 3, Illinois versus number 14, Morehead State. Kenny, take it away.
Man, this is tough again. Like, this is the story of this region, is that it's another big conference tournament champ that's
good teams
squaring off. And I mean, I don't know if there's a guy in the country playing as well as Terrence Shannon is. He was absolutely incredible in that Big Ten tournament. And you're taking on a Morehead State team. I know that Riley Minix, he's a good scorer, but their strength is in their defense. They're one of the better defensive teams in the country. So this is a really tough one for me. Normally 3s and 14s I don't look at. I do think that every year you're expecting one of those teams that had an amazing conference tournament run to slip up. I think Illinois could slip up early, but I think their talent will win out late in this game. So I'll take Illinois, but I wouldn't take them to cover their spread. I think it's close to 12.
Yeah, I'm absolutely staying away from the spread. If you want to include Illinois, you take money line just to add some extra parlay gamble to it. But Morehead State has the 8th best defense in the country, and it's a top 10 defense playing there. Now, they do have the 259th strength of schedule, so take that for what it's worth. But Morehead State, in featured highlighted games, on televised games, has had the 12th best defense in the country. So they understand pressure. They understand pressure. And Morehead State are not chumps. So I do expect this to be a very close game all the way through. There's a chance for an upset, so I actually rally for you to go with the spread and take Morehead State's points if you're going to include it anywhere, because there is a chance this team does pull upset, but I'm not going to say get money line Morehead State. I still think Illinois pulls off the win. Probably going to be one of those March Madness wins where it's going to be highlighted, but I'm going to stay with the card here, and we're going Illinois for this pick in a very tough fought game, a great 3-14 matchup. And they were not happy. If you watch Selection Sunday, they weren't happy with the Morehead State. Did you see that, Kenny?
I did.
Yeah, they quickly shut up. It was like, not that guy, not that 14. So number 3 going to stay alive and move on. But then we will also move on to our next pick. So let's roll the 3 seed and let's move on. Number 7, Washington State against number 10, Drake. And we're not talking about any sort of rapper. This is an actual college. Washington State 24-9, Drake 28-6. Kenny, why don't you take this one? I'll finish the East off.
I feel like you're going to also pick this upset with me because I do like Drake. I think what I like is normally when you get a small conference like this, the only other team that was considered for the tournament was Illinois State. They just didn't have the victories over a team like Drake to do it. But when you've got 4 quad 1 wins as a smaller program like Drake, I think that they have the potential here. Washington State, I know that they were one of the top 4 seeds when it came to tournament play for the Pac-12, but I don't love this team. Isaac Jones is their best player. Not even that crazy about him. So for me, it's Drake for the upset. I don't even know if it's a big upset because right now they're like +1.5, so it's a near pick 'em, but I would take Drake in this game.
Yeah, I'm a little all over the place with this game. This is going to be another one of those, which offense is it going to be the better offense or the better defense that comes forth? They both have very similar strength of schedules. They have very similar ways of playing basketball. I like Washington State's defense much more than I like Drake's offense. So it is going to be the first one we differ on. I would actually ride Washington State in this pick. I don't think this is going to be a close game. I think we'll know early on which team has better prepared coming into the game. So if you're a live bettor, I would wait to see the start of this. If it ends up going 8-0 one way, probably staying that way for the majority of that game. So yes, Kenny and I do differ, but we did talk about what we were going to do if that happened tonight, since we don't have a tiebreaker. So Kenny, if we don't agree, right? So it's kind of decision.
Wait. What do you mean it's dead?
What do I mean?
That's right. We are going to split it up. So Kenny, you got first dibs. You are going to take the tiebreaker. So we are going to go Drake on this pick for our host bracket to keep it riding here. Are you cool with that?
Yep. Good with it there.
All right. Drake is the pick here. That means the next tiebreaker goes to me. And we're going to talk Iowa State, South Dakota State next. I'm not writing upset here. I like Iowa State, the Big 12 champion. Iowa State behind Keyshawn Gilbert and the Iowa State Flying Cyclones. Look, Iowa State, I crunched the numbers here, right? Their offense is nothing to write home about, right? You're not going to go and find them and see that, hey, they're going to be this high-powered offense whatsoever. But they're number 4 in defense, and their strength of schedule, obviously Big 12 play, top 10 in the country. They're a well-tested team. Iowa State has big key victories over top programs, top seeds in this tournament. I like Iowa State. I think they're right and peaking at the right time, which is great. Kind of reminds me of Kansas of recent years, where they're always just kind of peaking at that right moment. And their players are playing at a high level. They're a deep bench. They ride 10 deep. And South Dakota State is they're no chumps, but their strength of schedule is 210. They really ride the strength of play from their starters. And so I don't see them being as deep of a run. I'm not going to sit here and pick different players on their team that are great, but they're very star heavy in the starting lineup. They run an 8-man deep lineup, so any foul trouble would cause them issues early. And we're going to go run Iowa State here. Kenny.
Yeah, Iowa State easily here. Really good defense, really good offense. They'll win by 20+.
Now, we're going to do first round analysis, but we are obviously going to go through this bracket just to run through it. UConn Northwestern.
I would take UConn.
I'm taking UConn as well. San Diego State Auburn.
I think everyone's going to pick Auburn, but I would take San Diego State.
I am also San Diego State. Duquesne or Illinois.
I would take Illinois.
Okay. I'll ride with Illinois, and then I get the next one. Iowa State or Drake.
Iowa State.
Same. Let's run through the Sweet 16. UConn, San Diego State.
UConn.
I have UConn as well. Illinois, Iowa State.
Iowa State.
I am taking Iowa State as well. UConn, Iowa State.
I'll let you pick that one.
All right, I got UConn going to the Final Four.
Great.
All right, great. We have hit our first region. We are rolling here. It is exciting stuff on ITL. We appreciate it. The Beasts of the East are done. If you're tuning in here, all y'all, we appreciate y'all joining us today. If you haven't already, the ITL Bracket Challenge is happening. $100 on the line. Check out the link below in the description, or if you're on Twitter, go ahead and check out ESPN's Tournament Challenge. Just search ITL. It'll be the first thing that pops up. Click that, join us. $100 on the line. You can have a spot to be on this show, be considered a sports scientist through the NBA playoffs. We do have a promo thanks to our courtesy Mark while we get into the next region. So let's take it away.
Here we go. March Madness. This is going to be a wild ride.
Beg, please get on your knees. Came from the jungle, up in the trees. I got a few tricks up in the sleeve. One wrong move, I'ma let out the big shoes, check out the crease. Blow like I'm Bigfoot, step on the beat. Make a man's run till he step out the cleats. When the whole place scream, gotta get out the. Yeah, I hear him chatting the noise.
All right. We are going to the wild, wild west. That's right. We're going to the west region. If you're just tuning in, we just finished with the east. We're going to the west. And Kenny and I are on tiebreaker scenario. I am up on tiebreakers for both. But let's start off. We both agree North Carolina is going to move on, so we're not going to waste too much time. North Carolina is the team to beat in the west, the number one overall seed in this region. We're going to start straight up with Mississippi State, Michigan. Take it away. Michigan State, take it away, Kenny.
This is tough. Michigan State was a preseason top 5 team in the country, and then they've underperformed, especially early in the year, although the James Madison loss looks a lot better now that they're in the tournament themselves. So shout out to James Madison. But this is Mississippi State went on a little bit of a run in the SEC tournament. I think everyone's going to pick Michigan State because of the name, because it's Tom Izzo, but I would take Mississippi State here. I really do think that they have an advantage on the defensive side of the ball, and so I would take Mississippi State.
So we have our second conflict in the first round, and it is I taking Michigan State in this game.
I like Michigan State because it's Izzo, so like you'll have it, but tell me why Michigan State for you.
Right. So Michigan State, they do have a top 25 defense, right? The 25th in the nation in defense. They have a top 12 schedule, strength of schedule, playing a tough conference. I get it. But when you dissect some of the qualities Mississippi State has for their wins and their depth, I like the experience. I like defense. And the big thing is I like coach. Tom Izzo in March, I'm going to ride the experience against Mississippi State's coaching experience. And I do like the fit of this matchup. I don't think they go far. I think we're going to agree who moves on in the round of 32. But I do like them to win the first game and continue Tom Izzo's record in March Madness play in the big dance. So I'm going to ride Michigan State for this. I also want to shout out to Frank in this one. I did have him search up the roster ages because Mississippi State didn't have all their players available. I was able to gather that. And Michigan State is older, so it just added to my pile of why I'm picking them. So,
as I said, like they're a preseason top 5 team. They probably shouldn't be a 9 seed. They've probably underperformed the majority of the year. There's nothing that says that they can't go on a run in March because there was a reason why they were preseason top 5 to begin with.
I'm completely with you. Michigan State moves on in a split pick. Kenny's up tiebreaker for first round. I'm up tiebreaker for the rest of the tournament rounds. And we go on to a fun one here. So let's run the cue real quick and make sure that we're ready. This is a fun one, Kenny. I think this might be one of the funner matchups. Number 5 St. Mary's versus number 12 Grand Canyon. Grand Canyon making their appearance. Is this their first time in the tournament? No,
they've been there before, but I mean, I couldn't tell you if they've won a tournament game before. I don't think they've done that.
Okay. 29-4 Grand Canyon. It was interesting looking up some of their games. I watched their entire tournament play. Shout out Denise, who's over there in Vegas watching that. Okay. So let's talk this one out, Kenny. Why don't you go over some of these stats and then I'll go over what I got.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at offensive and defensive rating, they're both very good in both. And I mean, Grand Canyon's going to be there because obviously you see the record 29-4. They don't play in a great conference, but they do score the ball really well, actually better more points per game than St. Mary's does. So this is one that I would have on upset watch. I think that what St. Mary's does well, Grand Canyon can actually match them in. Like, they can match them in the rebounding category. I actually think that Grand Canyon will create more turnovers in this game as well, which is what you want to see in March. So I would take Grand Canyon as an upset here, not just because of the record, but I think that a guy like Grant Foster could have a big tournament.
Kenny and I are agreeing. I actually had this as an upset pick. I didn't know if he would do it, so I was going to try to force a tiebreaker situation. But here's some knowledge, right? So the reason why the reason why Grand Canyon is so unique is because the 29-4 record, best in program history. They do rank in the top 15 both offense and defense. Their strength of schedule is a little north of 100, so it's not anything to write home about. But they are a very fast team. They're a very turnover-riding team, and I like those teams who create turnovers and create chaos. That's why Houston is so good. It's why teams that are defensive-minded are so good in the tournament in the first two rounds. You hear me talk about that a lot. First two rounds, tournament difference is always about the turnovers and how they have that tournament play. Now, St. Mary's, when it comes to their defense, they're number 2 in the country, so they are no joke themselves. But when they come to turnover creation, they are actually under Grand Canyon. So even with all that being said, I went a little bit deeper for Kenny so I could prove this upset. So I was kind of excited about this one. So Kenny stole my thunder. But they have the better free throw percentage. They have the same rebounding per game. They have better defensive stats. They have eight steals a game compared to 6 steals a game, 6 blocks compared to 3 blocks. I mean, you go down the line, Grand Canyon is a better overall team. And I think this is one of those sneaky plays where you can slip this onto your ticket and you're like, hopefully that hits and just worry about other games. I like this game a lot. Grand Canyon may jump out to a small lead and then get caught up with, but I do think they have better offensive firepower than St. Mary's. So I am writing Grand Canyon for the 12th pick. It's probably a long explanation for a pick that we agreed on. But let's just move on from that Grand Canyon upset pick here on ITL Bracket. Alabama Charleston is next. And we are going to write that the Crimson Tide, probably one of the better teams to feature this year coming out of the SEC. I love Bama's play. Their strength of schedule is through the roof. They have the number 3 strength of schedule. They have the best offense in the nation. They average, I think, north of 90 points per game. Can you correct me if I'm wrong? And I watched them play through the tournament. Their defense is, not the best defense in the world. They're not like their football team, but they definitely stand out and play against power conference opponents. So you can imagine what that is. They do have the 11th oldest roster, which I like to point out. And according to a lot of consensus, the 3rd best coach. I'm going to ride Bama in this game. I do like Charleston. I think Charleston is deserving. I watched a few of their games in tournament play, so I'm familiar with the program. But I think Bama brings an extra oomph to the game. I'm watching their play. They're dynamic. They run a very good scheme on offense. It's very hard to beat that. And yes, they don't rely on the 3-point game, right? They rely on transition. They rely on inside the arc play, which I think goes wonders in the tournament. When you rely too heavy on the 3-point shot, it tends to get streaky. Riding Bama. Your pick?
I would pick Charleston here. I think that this is another upset. I think that they can match them in shooting. I think actually Bama, the reason why they win so many games is when they play those teams that aren't as great on the offensive side. They were terrible against Florida. They were not good against Tennessee. They were not good against Purdue. These are all teams that play pretty fast. They score a ton of points. And I think that Charleston's the type of team that could match them there. And Bama, we know, can't defend. So you're basically picking Bama hoping that they're going to hit 12 plus threes in this game. And I don't want to do that. I know that it's the number 1 offense in the country, but I actually think Charleston could slow them down a little bit on the defensive side. They aren't a great defensive team, but they are better than Bama. So I would take Charleston as the upset. But again, I've got a couple on you. So if you want Bama, let them advance.
You're actually up for the tiebreaker, so you're okay. Good. But just when Bama wins,
I'll show you how to drink a beer, motherfucker. Fucking man cat.
So this will be why the bracket gets busted, is because I took Charleston. Got it.
This is it right here. This is it. No, it's a good pick. Like, I see both ways, right? Charleston's a great team. I think statistically, where I'm coming from on the edge, they're a bit lower. But I'm gonna ride it, right? You want to go Charleston? You're up next on the tiebreaker. We're gonna plug Charleston forward. And so if you're following along, that is a number 13 pick, and we got a wonderful 12-13 matchup, which we always have every year. So this is the region we're getting that 12-13 matchup. Clemson, New Mexico State is next, and we are going to go ahead and put that on the screen. Clemson, number 6 overall in this region, 21-11. New Mexico is 26-9. Kenny, why don't you give us the analysis on this game, and then I'll give you the stats.
New Mexico's going to win this game. Clemson's a very overrated 6th seed. Down the stretch, they lost to teams like Notre Dame. They lost to Boston College by double digits in ACC play. Shout out Connor Pedersen. I love the guy. I love the Clemson basketball program because of him, but I just don't think that this is a good matchup. New Mexico's playing really well, and so give me New Mexico here.
Clemson overall in the ITL Power Rankers comes in at 30, New Mexico at 37. It's one of the closest bar seed matchups we have in a 6-11. It's no surprise New Mexico has played phenomenal basketball this year. Their field goal percentage is relatively the same. Their three-pointer percentage is relatively the same. They shoot free throws about the same. The only thing that stands out to me from the Clemson perspective is just because of conference play, right? They have the 42nd strength of schedule. New Mexico's around 78. But the big thing about New Mexico is their offense. They are phenomenal on offense. Their pick and roll set and their ability to find the open man in the half court, I think, is what separates them. I agree with Kenny. I'm going 11 in this game as well. If you're playing this game, I might even get some points up into it because I'm very confident New Mexico matches up really well with Clemson. No age difference, no coach difference for me. I'm going to go New Mexico as well. And we move on to the wonderful Baylor-Colgate matchup. That, of course, Kenny and I have been dying to talk about, right? Baylor the whole way. I'm not going to dive into this. All right, I'm taking Baylor as well. We're not going to spend too much time on top 3 seeds unless we really feel there's an upset. But Colgate's a phenomenal program. Watch their last conference games and their tournament play. I think it's a great program. I think Baylor's just way too strong.
Colgate, this is their 5th straight year in the tournament. They've yet to win a tournament game. I don't think that it's starting with Baylor this year.
I don't think so as well. So that means we're going to take our conversations over to our next matchup, which is going to be Dayton, number 7 Dayton versus number 10 Nevada. And Kenny, I'll let you take this one as well.
Oh, this to me is probably the least exciting game for me in this entire first round. I don't generally love the 7-10 matchups anyways, because it's one of those I don't ever find myself taking a 7 or a 10 going on a deep run. So Nevada's a fine team. They're part of the 6 Mountain West teams that got in. They did lose to Colorado State in that tournament. But I do like Dayton here to win this game. I think that they are the better team when it comes to the offensive side of the ball. I think that they shoot the ball a lot better overall, and they're one of the highest 3-point shooting percentages in the country. So I'll take Dayton.
We're not differing on this pick. Dayton's my pick as well. I like to focus on the defensive end for my analysis on these first games. Dayton is a top 30 team in defense. They shoot the ball really well. They shoot at a really high clip as well. They do have a way better 3-point efficiency than Nevada. Again, nothing to take away from Nevada. They're a fantastic team. But they take better care of the ball. They create more turnovers and havoc. I'm going to take Dayton to win this matchup in a 7-10. I don't tend to bet 7-10, so if you're looking at how many units to place on this, I'm not telling you how many units, but I am going to tell you that this is something to sprinkle on top if you're really trying to play catch-up and you need some points. Dayton's going to be the way to go. Dayton 7 makes it. Arizona wins against Long Beach State. I don't think we need to talk this one out, Kenny. Any issues picking? Okay, I'm getting the thumbs up here. Let's run through the rest of this bracket like we did. I hold the tiebreaker. North Carolina, Michigan State. I'm guessing North Carolina for both.
Yep.
Wonderful. And now we come to a fun 12-13 matchup here. Grand Canyon and Charleston. Where are you leaning, Kenny?
Charleston.
I am leaning Grand Canyon. So Grand Canyon's going to move forward here. Do you want to give your 2 cents on Charleston real quick?
No, I think it's they're both quality small conference teams. It's kind of a 50-50. I just kind of lean Charleston because of the scoring, but
No problem. I like Grand Canyon and Pace. I'm going to go ahead and write them in their play, especially being in the West. I just wanted to double check, but yeah, I'm going to write that. Grand Canyon comes out there and faces a juggernaut, which will be the Cinderella juggernaut storyline going forward. Baylor, New Mexico. Any issues on Baylor?
Baylor's fine. Arizona's fine.
Wonderful. And let's talk. Do we need to? I don't think we need to talk about that. Baylor, Arizona.
I would take Arizona.
Okay, you hold tiebreaker there, so now it's mine again. North Carolina, Arizona.
I would take Arizona.
Okay, we agree on that. So Arizona would move forward. The winner of this matchup was going to take this region for me. And now we have Arizona into the Final Four to take on UConn. We're not going to talk about that till a little bit later on the show as we fill out this bracket.
Do we want to just put Houston in the Final Four, or
you want to just run this down before we take a short break?
Yeah,
so
we'll just take Houston there, and then we'll explain the other picks as we go.
Okay, all right. So Houston's riding through. We'll talk about why in just a moment. If you haven't heard about the ITL Bracket Challenge and you're just tuning in, we appreciate all y'all tuning in. We do have a bracket challenge going on. Check out this short commercial about that. Shout out to Mark. It's rated Merc, and we're gonna go into the South, deep in the South. Again, shout out Mark.
Here we go, March Madness. This is gonna be a wild ride.
Beg, please get on your knees. Came from the jungle, up in the trees. I got a few tricks up in the sleeve. One wrong move, I'ma let out the big shoes, check out the crease. Blow like I'm Bigfoot, step on the beat. Make a man's run till he step out the crease. When the whole place scream, gotta get out the. Yeah, I hear him chatting the noise. Can't stop for the.
That's right. We're going deep in the South there. Join the ITL Bracket Challenge. Chance to get $100 as well as a polo and a spot on this show. We are fun, I promise you. Deep in the South is where we're going. Houston was the first matchup. We already moved him forward. Longwood, great season. Appreciate you. Thanks for showing up. Nebraska A&M is going to be one of the fun matchups, I think, for round number one. This is going to be a Duke battle out, Duke back and forth. I was watching A&M's little rise from the end of conference play into the tournament, and I'm all about hitting the right gear at the right time for this, and A&M is absolutely doing that. I was going back and forth on whether their resume had enough, but they're here. They're the 9 seed. They're great. Kenny, I'm going to keep with the hot hand here. It goes against my better judgment, but they have the 4th oldest lineup in college basketball. You know how I am about experience, and I am about age of lineups. Texas A&M for me is going to be up there, and I'm going to ride that out. So I'm pick here. They do have, in my opinion, a top 25 coach as well. Their stats really don't prove anything other than their strength of schedule is 22 in the nation. So they're like the stats are nothing to write home about either. But again, I'm gonna take the momentum. I'm gonna take A&M and their high play. Where are you leaning on this?
So let me ask you this: where do you think A&M was ranked preseason?
Oh.
Do you think they were in the top
16?
25? Yeah, they were around that 15-16 range preseason.
Okay.
Now, Nebraska wasn't in the top 25. They've actually been one of those teams that's probably been one of the most surprising in college basketball this year because, well, Nebraska used to be a football school. They're not even that now, but they're also not a basketball school typically. But what I do like about A&M, I do like Wade Taylor a lot. I think that he's incredibly talented. Nebraska's been... They're just a tough team. Every single night, they're going to give you their best. They gave Illinois everything that they could until down the stretch. But I just think that A&M, I look at that preseason ranking. I think that they are peaking at the right time. Florida is a bad matchup for them. They're not a team, like they didn't play Bama well either. They don't want to get into like up and down track meets. That's not going to be the case with Nebraska. I think that when you get into the half court between these two teams, it's going to set up really well for them. So I really like A&M here.
A&M seems to be the consensus pick. And so what we like to say...
Easy money!
Easy money, right at home. Texas A&M moves on. There we go. Kenny's not as hyped. I'm hyped about it. A&M continues the streak. I'm not a huge A&M.
Easy money!
I had to play it again. I'm not an A&M fan by any means, but I do enjoy a Texas team proceeding and moving forward. Nebraska, great season. We appreciate y'all, and we are going to move on. You hear the Jaws music. Duke versus Vermont is next up. Number 4 Duke versus number 13 Vermont. This is Kenny's team the whole way through, so I'll let him lead the analysis. Take it away, Duke.
I mean, I don't love this Duke team. And also, before we get into it, shout out to my wife. At late supper, she just airdropped me in a Caesar salad. So I'm going to be enjoying that as we go through some of these picks. But yeah, this is the type of matchup that I think is okay for Duke as an opening one. I don't love them long term, but they're soft as baby shit, if I'm being completely honest. Like, Filipowski is very soft. But they do have the guard play, I think. They can keep up with Vermont from a shooting perspective. I think that it'll kind of be a trendy one because, first of all, people hate Duke, and second of all, they just lost to NC State. But I think that they're going to survive this game, and I don't love them to go that much further, but I do like them in this first game.
Yeah, when I first was looking at the Duke-Vermont matchup, I early triggered 13 here. Right, I early triggered 13 here, and I was like, no, I can't do it. Let me go look at the stats. And easily saw this matchup, and I said, okay, what does Duke do well? What does Vermont do well? Vermont's a great defensive team, which I think is going to cause a little trouble in the beginning for Duke, because Duke does get slow starts. And you can tell me from Manga Kenny, but they do struggle, right? It comes out of the gate, you're like, crap, it's kind of slow. What kind of game is this going to be? And all of a sudden they kind of pick it up, make some some halftime adjustments. And Duke all of a sudden wins this game. You're like, of course they won. And so that could be trappy to me, right? Vermont could get up easy. They could be up at halftime. But Duke is one of those teams that just does not go away. And for a team like Vermont playing against a team like that, Duke has their credibility, right? Duke plays hard basketball. They're a top 40 offensive team. They have one of the older rosters, right? And Kyle Filipowski is absolutely phenomenal. So I'm taking the star power and the resiliency of Duke in round one. I'm also taking Duke to win this game. We don't usually do heavy analysis on a 4-13, but this is going to be a game to watch. You just got to hope Duke continues to battle against a very, very good defense and a lengthy defense. Vermont actually has one of the longest teams in the tournament. So going to be fun to watch that game. Good luck to Duke. And we move on to our next matchup, which is Wisconsin and James Madison. And on the bracket, we skipped over. We're going to jive back right to it. Wisconsin, the 5 seed, 22-13 versus James Madison, the 12 seed. Wisconsin, in our rankings, scrolling into this matchup, it comes in pretty close. James Madison is a 49 overall for us, and Wisconsin is a 22. So a big spread on our rankings. Wisconsin really dives in. Top 10 strength of schedule, where James Madison has kind of had a teetering schedule, but has a high-powered offense. James Madison, 31-3 on the year. Passing the 30-win mark is no joke. They do high fly across the court. They are one of the fastest-paced teams in college basketball. They have a top 10 offense. They have a number 9 offense. They do have a North 150 strength of schedule. So the kind of play is a little down for James Madison. But Wisconsin, very good program, very great defense. It'll be interesting to see if they can shoot their way through this game and compete at that level, and not playing against lesser talent, but a team that actually has an established half-court play. James Madison comes from one of those conferences that doesn't have like established play the entire game. So it will be interesting to see what they do. For me, this was really tough, Kenny, but I am going to go Wisconsin in this matchup. It was tough, though, because I like high-powered offenses to beat pretty stout defenses. Not elite defenses, but pretty stout defenses. But I'm going to ride Wisconsin this pick. What's your pick?
So who has the tiebreaker here? Is it you?
I believe so.
Okay, so you're going to have to use it here because Wisconsin's going to advance, but I'm going to tell you why I like James Madison here. So Wisconsin's one of the best 3-point shooting teams in the country. They actually just shoot a high percentage overall. The thing that I like about James Madison is that they're one of the best perimeter defenses in the entire country. They hold teams to under 29% from three, which bodes really well for them in a matchup like this. So I think that they can limit Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin got a little bit overvalued because of what they did in the Big Ten tournament. Anytime you beat Purdue, that's going to happen. But I don't consider Purdue a massive upset ever, even when they are a top 5 team in the country. I just don't think that it's a massive upset. I think that they can get got, and it happened when Edey got into foul trouble early. So I think Wisconsin got overvalued. I like JMU a lot, so I'll take them in this one. But
if you feel that strongly, I'll get the next two. So we'll put JMU forward.
No. No. We got to do it how we've been doing it. It's your tiebreaker.
Okay.
Wisconsin.
All right, Wisconsin goes forward. That takes us to Tech and NC State, and I'll take this one. Texas Tech, Big 12 play. A lot of 6-seed Big 12 play so far against North Carolina State. If you didn't watch North Carolina State and North Carolina, phenomenal game. Did you catch that game, Kenny?
I did. I watched a lot of the ACC tournament. We got Big Boy Burns down there. I mean, he's a problem.
Yeah, big time. And I like Texas Tech a lot. I have a lot of Texas Tech following, so I know you watch me just for the hate against Texas, which I completely get. But Texas Tech is not a team to write off in this tournament either. Texas Tech plays great basketball. They have a top 20 strength of schedule because they're in Big 12 play. They're top 60 in offense, top 60 in defense. Just an overall great program. And when you look at North Carolina State, they definitely have some advantages in this game. First off, starting with size, I think the size of North Carolina State is going to be problems for Texas Tech. And although Texas Tech has had some recent basketball success, North Carolina State just gave fits to North Carolina and are playing on a heater right now. And so Tech will have some trouble with this team. I am going to say with the South play and being in Pittsburgh for this game, I'm going to take Tech in this game. The following is going to be strong. It's going to be a big showing for Tech. I think momentum will ride in with North Carolina State a bit, but I like Texas Tech in this matchup. I think they're the deeper bench as well. Early foul trouble could cause this game to be a blowout. I'm going to take Texas Tech in this game to proceed forward to the next round. Kenny?
I'm also taking Tech. 5 wins in 5 days is really impressive. It's going to take a lot out of them. I think they would have put a lot of emotion into just getting into the tournament in general because they weren't getting in unless they won the ACC tournament. Then you go on a break for 5 days and then you play. So I just think it's a bad matchup for them. I like Texas Tech here to advance.
A live look at people in Lubbock, Texas who follow.
Give me a hell yeah!
Sitting on their couch drinking a couple of Steve Weisers watching us talk about the bracket.
That's it right now. There's nothing else better to do. Oakland, Kentucky. I don't think we're going to talk about it very much. Kentucky moves on. Florida and the play-in. Do we want to touch on this game? I know the play-in is Boise State and Colorado.
So I think that one matters only because I think Florida will beat Colorado. I think Florida would have more issues with Boise. But because I think Colorado is going to win, then I would just take Florida to advance.
I agree with that. I don't like the matchup for Boise State against Colorado State. Colorado State does go up the rankings a bit.
That's just
Boise
Colorado.
State,
Colorado State's in a different one.
Oh, I'm sorry. Colorado. So let me rephrase that. So I actually like Colorado over Boise State. Colorado State would rank lower. So yes, I'm right there. Colorado, if you're looking at play-in betting, which is on Tuesday, don't drop the ball on that. Right. Colorado does have a much more mature program. The average age for the country, I think they're a top 15 overall. And they come from a 74 strength of schedule, whereas Boise State is currently, pull up my stats, currently at a top 100 strength of schedule. They don't rank in the top 50 of either categories. And their age is young. So I think just tons of inexperience, and it's just not their year, but they're making it. They're above their heads. Look at Boise State the next couple of years to come to be probably one of those better teams we're talking about in the high 20 wins and doing wonders. But Colorado does move on, and I do believe Florida beats Colorado. So we don't really.
The only thing that hurts Florida is they did lose their big man in that final. So, but they have strong guard play plays in March. So I like it. Okay.
Marquette moves on.
I want to say this much. I want to say this much about that Marquette game. If there is a 15 that is going to beat a 2, it's going to be that game. Because Marquette doesn't know if they're going to get Tyler Kolek yet. Even if they do get him back, he hasn't played in close to a month. So your best player has been out. I don't love Shaka Smart. I really don't. I think that he's one of those coaches that really banks off of one run with VCU, and since then he's kind of underperformed.
It may be funny to you, motherfucker, but it's not funny to me, okay?
Take it easy with the Shaka Smart.
But I do think that Western Kentucky, they're unfortunate to be a 15. I would have had them as a 13 or a 14. And so when you have that and a best player coming back off an injury and we don't know what he's going to look like if he starts slow, that could be upset potential. So I'll just say that much about Western Kentucky.
Yeah, Marquette ranked 16, one of my lower top 2 seeds, 16th rank for us on ITL. So definitely not up there for us. But yep, good call out. I was just kidding about the Shaka Smart. You can say whatever you want. Just thought it was a good plug. That moves on there. So Houston against A&M. A&M, great run. I think you've done phenomenal. You struggle against high defensive power team. That's why Houston moves on. Kenny, anything to add?
Nothing to add on that. I think
what?
It's a good run, but I just think Houston's going to smother them defensively.
Wisconsin, Duke?
I think that's actually another matchup that favors Duke. Because now, if it's James Madison that's there, I'd have them beating Duke. But I think Wisconsin, they do everything that Duke does. Like, they're also soft as hell. They don't rebound great. They try to shoot a lot. I just think that it'd be a good matchup for them, so I would take Duke.
Yep, I take Duke in that matchup as well. Texas Tech, Kentucky. I have Kentucky winning against Tech.
I have Kentucky as well.
And Marquette, Florida. I have Marquette still winning this game.
I have Florida.
Okay, it's my tiebreaker on this one, and then it's yours next.
Okay.
Houston, Duke. You got Houston in that matchup?
If that matchup actually happens, I wouldn't be shocked if Houston is close to double-digit favorites. And I would take Houston to cover the spread. So, Houston to win.
I don't have anybody in this bracket even close to Houston. Kentucky, Marquette?
Kentucky.
I agree. And then we both agree Houston moves on to the Final Four in this matchup. Houston, I think, had a very favorable matchup and region, in my opinion.
Kentucky is the only team in this bracket that can beat Houston, and it's because they can outscore them. And if they fell behind early, I think that's the way to beat Houston. So that's the only team for me that could beat them, but I would still take Houston there.
You're watching this show for rounds 1 and 2. If you want analysis on Sweet 16, Elite 8, Final Four matchup play, you need to keep watching our show. So if you're tuning in for the first time, this is really what you're tuning in for, is round 1, round 2 analysis. We'll talk about the rest for weeks to come. You'll need to be a part of those shows. Houston, UConn, Arizona. We're moving on. There's never been more than 2 number 1 seeds that make the Final Four. Let's make that happen here right after this short commercial break. Have you heard about the ITL Bracket Challenge? If you haven't already, or if you have because you've been watching the show, congratulations. You're going to see it one more time. $100 is on the line. 20,000 of you got to see the promo. You're going to see it again on here. Check out that bracket. Go to the ESPN tournament groups. Just search ITL. You have up to 3 entries. $100, guys. It's a free $100 if you win. Not everybody gets to win that, but you get a chance to do it for free. Check out the
Here we go. March Madness. This is going to be a wild ride.
Beg, please get on your knees. Came from the jungle, up in the trees. I got a few tricks up in the sleeve. One wrong move, I'ma let out the big shoes, check out the crease. Blow like a big foot, step on the beat. Make a man's run till he step out the cleats. When the whole place scream, gotta get out the. Yeah, I hear him chatting the noise.
All right, we are going to move Purdue on early. We're not going to talk about an upset there, but we're going to go Utah State, TCU here. Kenny, do you want to start? Or would you like me to start?
You go for it.
All right. TCU definitely has a high strength of schedule. They're playing in the Big 12. They are a team that runs middle of the country for top 100, top 70 offense, top 70 defense. Finished 21-12. Utah State had a pretty good season this year, 27-6. Definitely has a lot to ride home when it comes to their play this year. Utah State, 49% field goal percentage. They are a little bit lower on 3-point percentage. They do turn the ball over quite a bit. They're a high-flying team, a little bit higher on the pace meter than TCU. TCU does run half-court sets 65% of the time. Utah State is 41st when it comes to our power rankings, while TCU is 28th. It's a good matchup. Utah State does have the 43rd best offense in the country, had an 89th strength of schedule. I think this is going to be one of the closer games of the first round. It's not going to draw the eye. There's not a ton of Utah State following. There's not a ton of TCU following. Both those programs kind of sandwiched between major programs in their conferences and states. So it's going to be a low draw. Emmanuel Miller is phenomenal. So I'm going to ride the Big 12 team here. I've seen about 8 Utah State games. I've seen about 12 or 13 TCU games. I do like TCU in this matchup. I think they play better. I think they have the experience. Utah State does sometimes have some guppy wins. So I'm taking TCU. I do hold the tiebreaker, but Kenny, I'd love to know your pick.
Well, I guess my override's coming in because Utah State here. I think they're one of the best coached teams in the country. We know that the Mountain West has 6 teams. This is the team that finished number 1 in the Mountain West this year. They have wins over all the quality teams in that conference. And I think that that's huge because I'm not crazy about TCU. They're actually the one Big 12 team that, even as a 9 seed, I think they could have been a 10. I think that they almost could have been on the bubble. I'm not crazy about TCU. And so I really like this Utah State team to win. I think that Great Osabor will have a massive game.
Kenny gets the override, and Kenny now I go to the override for round 1s, but Kenny has the override for future rounds. So we're back to being offset here. Utah State advances to play Purdue, and that takes us to Gonzaga-McNeese State, which is going to be a fun matchup. Kenny, talk to us about it.
I think everyone is on McNeese State. They think that, this Gonzaga team isn't as good as years past. I'm going to take the veteran coach here. Like a lot of people took Izzo because it's Michigan State. I'm taking Mark Few because it's Gonzaga. They figure out ways to get to Sweet 16s, even when they don't have the best team in the world. And I think that McNeese, they had a really great season, but we already have Grand Canyon over St. Mary's. I can't disrespect the West Coast Conference like that, so I'm going to take Gonzaga here.
I like the Zags in this matchup. McNeese State, though, is interesting. McNeese State, 30-win programs are no chumps. I do like that, one, they have a top 40 offense to pair with a top 5 defense.
Mm-hmm.
Now, their strength of schedule is 257, right? Like, they're not playing the Dukes
that's the
and
tough thing for me. Where's the quality win? Yeah, it's 33, right. But come on.
I mean, there's obviously talent there. So you're obviously like, okay, there is something there. How much is there is left to be said. Now, Gonzaga, obviously up our rankings, but the Zags are not the Zags of old. They're 17th in our ranking. They have a top 10 offense. Their defense is nothing to be happy about. They do have the 13th oldest roster. Their coach is probably top 5 in the nation. 57th strength of schedule. So their strength of schedule is not exactly anything to, really focus on either. But the Zags are the Zags. They've been there. They have the experience. The coaching staff is elite for all you can say, for all intents and purposes. They are very slow. Mm-hmm. I do want to point that out. The Zags take the most time to score 60 points in the country. That's a big deal. This is not a Zags team that can get out and run it. If McNeese does get hot, right? If McNeese State does get hot and start scoring at high junctures, the Zags are going to be in trouble. And so that is something to point out. If you're a live bettor, you're watching this game, McNeese jumps out to a big lead. It's fast-paced.
Take the over.
That's
Take the over in this game. That's what I'll say. I think that we could be in the high 80s with both teams.
This is definitely one to watch. And if McNeese does have that talent to prove they can run with the Zags, that's going to be a team to watch for the rest of the tournament. That's all I got to say about that. But we agree. Zags move on. Zags continue. And that takes us to Kansas-Samford, which is going to be an interesting game. This is also a high upset pick. 17% of brackets have Samford getting upset here, Kenny. But I love Kansas. Kansas, Kevin McCullough has been great. Kansas is one of the premier teams, best coach in the country, in my opinion. They're a very balanced team. They have the third oldest roster, ninth strength of schedule because they're in Big 12 play. If you've watched Big 12 play, you know how good and talented Kansas is. They have had their moments where it's like, where the hell is Kansas and why are they playing this terrible? So that's why I think a lot of teams would say it just kind of depends which Kansas shows up. Almost a 50% shooting team, stout defense. I like Kansas in this game. Samford just had a really bad draw with this. I don't like the matchup for them. They're not big, but they are fast. So I'm going to take Kansas to win this game. Kenny.
This is my Samford upset. McCullers and Dickinson, they've been out for the last little bit. So I don't want to panic too much because Kansas has been banged up. But I just really like this team offensively on the Samford side. They're one of the best three-point shooting teams in the country, which that's how you eliminate teams in March. You get hot from downtown. You go 4 of 5 from 3 early, and then suddenly Kansas is on their heels because they're down 15-4 right out of the gate. So what I also like about Samford is it's not one guy. I think they got 4 players that average double-digit scoring, so they can beat you multiple ways. Samford's plus 7.5 in this game. At the very least, if you like Kansas, I think that Samford covers because of how well they score, but I'll take Samford here for the upset. But you have the tiebreaker, so the Jayhawks advance.
I do. Kansas does advance, and we stay pat with the higher seed moving forward. Although, again, if you're live betting, just keep track of the pace. Samford and Magnesia State both are fast-paced teams, and Kansas and the Zags are 2 of the slowest teams. So a very slow, fast matchup. Just depends if the half court's getting set up or not. That moves us over to Oregon and South Carolina. South Carolina, the 6th seed, and Oregon, the 11th seed here in the Midwest. I like this matchup a lot because the teams relatively mimic each other in their play. If you break down their stats, both are shooting in the low 40% field goal wise. They both have the same amount of turnovers. They both have the same amount of fouls. They have a very similar taste here. And when it comes to rankings, they're only 3 apart. Our ITL rankings have Oregon at 38, while they have South Carolina at 35. A very close matchup. The one thing I do love, though, and I've said it over and over again, the one big difference is strength of schedule. And Oregon has been battle tested just a little bit more than South Carolina has. I like Oregon to win this game because of marquee matchups that they have across the board and down their roster. So I am taking the upset. I'm taking 11 Oregon to upset the Gamecocks in the first round.
On the opposite here, I like the 6th seed. South Carolina played in a very tough SEC conference. They picked up a lot of wins. I think they were 2nd overall or 3rd by the time the regular season was done. I just think Oregon were overvaluing because that Pac-12 conference tournament. Arizona, yeah, that was a good win, but I think it was more so Arizona just had a terrible shooting night than it was Oregon did anything special. They beat Colorado in the final, also another not great team. So, yeah, they're the 11 seed, but I think they're there for a reason, and so I think that South Carolina takes care of business.
All right, Gamecocks move on with the tiebreaker, moves back to me, and we go on to Creighton and Akron.
Ooh, Jays.
We are both choosing Creighton to move forward. I don't think it's a thought, right? Akron probably shouldn't even be in this tournament, but they make it because
don't foul up 1 with 5 seconds left. Pro tip number 1 from Competitive Edge.
If we had the cue of it's a bold strategy, Cotton, we would be playing it right now. Was not smart. The next matchup's close and near dear to home. Number 7, Texas plays the first play-in team here, and the play-in teams are going to be Colorado and Boise. Yeah, Colorado State and Virginia is going to be the play-in for this one. Both teams bring their own pace here. Virginia is going to be a very slow team. Colorado State is a very fast-paced offensive team. Kenny, just to know, who do you have coming out of that Virginia-Colorado State game?
So I know that this doesn't matter because you have the tiebreaker. You're a Longhorns guy, so like you can go ahead and pencil Texas in there. But I'm going to tell you that if Virginia wins, Texas will advance, and if Colorado State wins, then they'll advance. I really like Isaiah Stevens. He's one of my favorite players in the country. He has been for a couple of years there. Keep in mind, this is the Colorado State team that lost to Michigan a couple years ago when they had David Roddy on this team as well. That was a super fun team. But I think that Isaiah Stevens can go at a guy like Abe Misson, like really, force him to defend. Whereas I think if it's Virginia there, then they might score 50 points, but even that's not a guarantee. Virginia's won some games scoring below 50 points this year. They're one of the worst teams in the country. I'm actually pissed off that they're in the tournament to begin with because they're one of the worst teams to watch. And to me, they don't even deserve to be there, but they are nonetheless. We know that Texas is moving on because you're a giant homer, but Colorado State would give them a run.
I wouldn't use the term giant, but I do have a bracket where Texas wins the whole thing, so we'll talk about that later. Texas versus McLean is pretty simple here. Texas advances. I have a very similar analysis. I worry about Colorado State, so I'll watch that game, probably hoping they don't win, but
that would actually be one of the best first-round matchups if we do get Colorado State there. I think that them and Texas would be a must-watch game.
I agree. I think that'll be probably a March Madness highlight will be that game. So I'm very excited to see that. Tennessee, St. Peter's, we're not going to talk about too much. That would end our analysis.
I want to mention one thing. Dalton Connect is a cold-ass white boy. That guy can absolutely play. He is so much fun to watch. To me, he's the most exciting player in the country.
There you have it right there. That is it for our first round analysis. Let's run through the Midwest real quick. Purdue, Utah State. I have Purdue.
I have Utah State.
Ooh. Who carries the tiebreaker right now for future? I think it's you, right?
I carry it.
There you go, Utah State. I now carry future, which is going to make you upset. Zags, Kansas.
Zags.
You have the first. I'll take the Zags in this. South Carolina, Creighton.
Creighton.
Wonderful.
Oh,
obviously, we're both on Texas here, right?
That makes me so mad. I almost don't want it anymore. I kind of want to go Purdue so I can get Dalton Connect to move on. But all right, if you're gonna homer,
I'm absolutely joking. This is
okay.
I don't even think Texas is gonna win that game. Utah State Zags. If this is the matchup, I'm taking Zags in this game. Yep. And if Tennessee Creighton ends up existing and it's not Texas, I'm gonna run Tennessee in this game.
I would say Creighton, so Tennessee advances.
So Tennessee is mine. Zags, Tennessee. I move Tennessee.
Same here.
All right. So our final four here on the host bracket is UConn, Arizona on the left side in Glendale, and then Houston, Tennessee on the right side. UConn, Arizona. Kenny, you get the first pick on this one.
I think that's a bad matchup for Arizona, not just because UConn's a juggernaut. I just think defensively, you'd need a really special Caleb Love performance for them to advance. So I would take UConn in that game.
UConn is the first pick here, going to the finals, to the national championship all over again. Final four pick for me on the right side is Houston over Tennessee. Kenny. Okay. So we agree UConn, Houston, which would be a phenomenal 1-2 matchup, both one seeds, both arguably the number one overall seeds in our opinions here. Kenny, who wins the national championship this year?
I think it's the team that I've considered the best team in the country all year, which is UConn, even though Houston's been close. I just don't think that even as good as Houston's defense is, that they can score enough to beat UConn.
I was talking with Chris Borak, and I told him I don't see anybody in the bracket.
We're good friends. How's he doing?
He's doing really well, Kenny. He said nobody can beat Houston but themselves.
Is themselves code name for UConn?
You know what's awesome is that I carry the future tiebreaker here because I didn't choose Texas to beat Tennessee. And we're rolling. We're rolling Houston as national champions.
I'm not upset about it either. Like I picked a bracket earlier today where I had Houston as well. So if it happens, it's needed first to verify how good Sampson really is as a coach. He just needs that national title, and I think he could have the group there to do it.
Now, I am getting messages from my Texas fans, and it looks a lot like this.
What? What?
Take it easy, guys. Take it easy. I do have a bracket where a world exists that Texas makes it and wins a national championship. I'm just not going to say Texas is back in basketball, okay? How many points, though? Kenny? I'm going to say I'm going to go ahead and call UConn's. I'm going to call Houston's points. You can call UConn's points in this scenario that Houston wins. I'll say Houston will have to score 65 or more points in this. So I'm going to give them 72 points. What do you have for UConn?
68, so 140.
140 it is. 140 is the entry. If you are watching, you have been watching all day, and this whole entire show, right? We have Houston as national champions on the Bracketology. You're watching for rounds 1 and 2, though, but we are filling up the whole bracket so we can compete against you guys. Go join our challenge on ESPN. $100, a polo, also a chance to be on this show. Talk your mess here. We talk NFL, NBA, college basketball. Come have some fun with us. You guys have been fantastic. We've seen our numbers going up and down, but we're at about 109 of you watching right now. We appreciate y'all. We appreciate y'all being a part of this show. Come out and join the fun. Comment some of your entries later in this week. We will be back tomorrow night where we fill out the Sports Scientist bracket. We're very excited about that. But good luck to your teams in this tournament. Good luck to the Texas Longhorns and the following. We appreciate all y'all. But Kenny, where can people find your show and where can people find you?
You can follow me at HedgePod. Recorded a bracket episode earlier today. Also had Houston actually winning there, but it wasn't just my bracket. There was 2 others that were there, so I got outvoted on a few of those. But I'll drop my official bracket Wednesday after I see where some of these 10 seeds shake out as well. But appreciate you having me on. Wish that I could be there for tomorrow's show. But it was fun chopping it up with you tonight.
Again, the only thing that can take out.
As you can see, the more you fuck around, the more you're going to find out.
The Big 12 championship game. That's the only thing that can stop Houston. We appreciate all y'all. Thank you guys so much. Love you guys. Good luck to you guys this week. Enjoy it. Work hard and work harder on your bets. Play those units and reach out if you have any questions. Good night, everybody.